everyone! Welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to be talking about a topic that I find very interesting that has been brought up to me multiple times this week, last week, and it's the topic of healing. Healing is a very iffy subject, especially in cultural households. You're just expected to get over everything, and it's understandable. However, our brains do not have the capacity to heal from something that we haven't exactly dealt with. So I'm just going to be talking about some advice that I wish I got when I was suffering, going through a bunch of crap, and just a bunch of little things that I think will help you along your journey to healing. Okay, so first I kind of want to put out my definition of healing, and I think that it is mentally, spiritually, physically, and emotionally becoming content with whatever had happened in the past. For example, you went through something horrible, maybe with your father or maybe with your mother, and you know that happened, and you can think about it without physically getting upset, without emotionally allowing it to control you. I think that is healing. And another thing I wanted to mention that I believe is very important is that healing is not always going to be pretty. And I say this because a lot of people expect healing to be, I sit in my room, I read an inspiring book, I go outside and I meditate, when the reality of healing is that you can sit on your bed with a tub of ice cream, if that's what it takes for you to get over what you're going through. Now, if you're just sitting on your bed and eating a tub of ice cream for no reason, just doing it because you feel miserable and you're not actively trying to change the fact that you are miserable, that's when it becomes a problem. But if you're doing it to cope and to teach yourself, okay, maybe I did go through this, but this is what I'm gonna do. This is gonna make me feel better, and this is gonna be my step one towards healing. That wouldn't be my step one towards healing, but whatever it is, I think that everyone has their own kind of way to get over certain things. So, I mean, if you guys have a pattern already, then stick to your pattern. And if it works, then hallelujah. But I'm going to provide you guys with kind of like an idea as to what you should do when you go through a breakup or when you go through something traumatic. Because it just differs from person to person. You can take things from here and there. Overall, I'm just trying to give you guys advice, and I'm trying to guide you. I don't want to stick my fingers and hands in everyone's life and come off as like controlling. No, not at all. These are just recommendations that I'm giving you guys, so take them how you will. So there came a time in my life where I didn't have many friends, and to me life was all about having friends, being the most popular, being the most liked, everyone liking you. That's what life was to me, and in all honesty, that was the most miserable period of my entire life. I didn't know who I was. It was always about pleasing people. And I remember in 6th grade, I craved people's attention. I craved it. I needed it. And I sent this picture, and it was of blood in a sink. And I sent it to this group chat, and I am not victimizing myself at all, because I know I was wrong in the situation. Like, that is a crazy thing to lie about. It wasn't my blood. It was someone else's. No one that I knew. But I was like, guys, this is like my blood. And everyone kind of felt bad for me at first. And then someone went and they like reverse searched the photo or something. And everyone got on me about it. Now, I had just been outed for a lie that I caused myself to go through. And it was just like mental torture. You know, going in and out of these horrible conversations with these girls, talking about many you shouldn't have lied, many you shouldn't have done this, which is understandable on their behalf too. I would have been mad. I don't think I would have taken it to the extent that they took it to, but they made a whole group chat behind my back, and they went and they like called me about it, and I just kept apologizing and apologizing and apologizing, and I didn't know what else to do. Anyway, after that all happened, I lost a majority of my friends. I barely had anyone there for me. And so I dug myself this hole and I buried myself in it. And I refused to get out of it. I didn't want help. I didn't want to get better. And I was actually talking to my friends about this today. And I was like, you cannot help someone that does not want to help themselves. Let me say it again. You cannot help someone who does not want to help themselves. And I think that that's so important, because if you try to help someone who doesn't even want your help, who doesn't want their own help, who doesn't want to make an active change in their life, there's no point. Don't put energy into something that's not going to put energy into you. And I always tell that to everyone I come across, to anyone who's told me that there's a problem that they're having with another person. If that person or that thing is not going to put energy into you, don't go out of your way to put energy into it. It's not worth it, and it's only going to drain you. After I dug myself into this deep hole, I kind of saw everything going downhill from there. So 7th grade, I kind of forgot about everything. I kind of became numb to the feeling. 8th grade, I relived all of those feelings, and everything just came back. And again, it was with the bullying. And if you saw my middle school video, then you know life was not treating me very well, and I wasn't treating myself very well either, because I wasn't trying to heal from it. Come 9th grade, I opened up to this girl, and I'm not saying that I shouldn't have, but some things happened. It was upsetting. Again, I'm in this deep hole. Every night I would see myself crying. I have videos and pictures of me crying and doing things to myself, and I truly do wish that I never did those things, and that I never thought that way about myself, because there are scars that are never going to leave my body, and there's things and memories that are never going to leave my mind. But I've healed from those, because I took the steps necessary in order to heal. I didn't just let them be. I didn't just get over them. I didn't just push them to the side. I didn't just smoke my feelings away. I didn't turn to the bottle. I know a lot of adults that just turn to the bottle, who go and smoke a blunt. That in on itself is so dangerous for you. Again, I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and I was like, I am never, ever going to approach drugs or any kind of alcohol, because it's not something I want in my life. And I know that there's other substitutes, and I can deal with whatever crap I'm going through. I know I can do it, as can anyone else. But the question that lies now is, are they willing to change whatever it is about themselves that made them go into that alcohol habit, or get into smoking, or get them into that addiction? It's all about what you're willing to do. So 9th grade was that time that I was incredibly down low. I remember end of first semester, 10th grade, if I have the timing correct. If I don't, forgive me. I really started getting into self-love and self-healing books. And these books honestly got me to where I am today, because without them, I promise you, I would not be the woman that I am. I would not talk the way I talk. I would not act the way I act. I would not walk the way I walk. It's just, I wouldn't act that way. The first thing I did, I remember, was I love writing. So I sat down and I wrote everything down. Everything. This is all without my parents knowing, without my friends knowing, without anyone having to know, because I think that in order for you to become successful or do something correctly, you have to hide it from people. And it's the unfortunate reality. People are always going to try to bring you down in whatever way they deem necessary. But I mean, obviously, if you have good friends, they're not going to do that. But at the time, I didn't know who was my real friend from who was my fake friend. Obviously, I had this victim mentality, and I wouldn't have wanted to be friends with me back then. I was just something else. But the first thing I did was I sat down with my feelings and I wrote everything down. And then I wrote down why. Why do I feel this way? And I realized that for a lot of those feelings, there was no why. They just were. And so I had to flip my mindset from being pessimistic to being optimistic. And that was one of the hardest switches that I had to make ever. If you knew me back then, you knew that I was incredibly negative when it came to school or anything about learning or just school in general. I would always talk down on it. And it affected people in a very, very negative way. things happened, and it just wasn't great. The second step I took was my cutoff game got insane. I cut off those people that made me feel miserable. And this was a great change for me, because once you cut off the energy that is being taken away from you, once you cut off that source, once you allow for yourself to gain all of the energy that you once had, once you allow for that to happen, you can really start your healing process. So first, write your feelings down. Second, cut off the source of your dissatisfaction. That is super important. 3, which is one of my favorite ones, is getting active. I wasn't a runner until about a year or 2 ago, which is exactly when I began healing from everything. I didn't like my body. I had this crazy, crippling body dysmorphia, and I hated looking in the mirror. I hated the girl I was. I hated her, and I recall every time I would look at the mirror, I would close my eyes because I thought that I was so ugly. And sometimes before I would this hurts to talk about, but sometimes before I would get into the shower, I would just stare at myself. And I remember the way I used to look at myself. And it was this very disgusted look. I had this very disgusted look in myself. And I couldn't look at me. I didn't like my body. I didn't like my hair. I didn't like my eyes. I didn't like anything about me. I didn't like my personality. And I was like, that's probably why I have no friends and probably why I trust no one. And this is all behind closed doors, and nobody knew anything. I mean, maybe they did, because I'm a very expressive person. And I mean, if I feel sort of way, you can probably tell it on my face. But point is, whatever, I really disliked my body. I disliked everything about me. So I had to make that change. I decided to start working out. I decided to start running, and my weight dropped. And I also was on a very large calorie deficit. So I kind of stopped eating. I cut off foods. I cut off sugars. Great era, not so great too. My calorie deficit was more of kind of like skipping meals. And I was proud of that. I was like, and I would reassure myself by saying things like, oh my gosh, look how skinny you're getting. It was a horrible era for me. Horrible, horrible. I hated everything. I wasn't happy with me. So despite running, I wasn't doing it to stay healthy. I was doing it because I wanted to become skinny. And I didn't want to be fit. That's not the term that I used. I used skinny because I wanted that, that hourglass, that thin, that flat stomach. I wanted everything to go. So now we have 3 things that we learned. A is cut off what exactly was bothering you. B is get some sort of physical activity in, whatever it may be. And 3 is accept. Accept that it happened and allow for yourself to grow up and to heal from it. I think that also something that's very important is letting it out. I think that was one of my biggest flaws when it came to healing and redirecting everything. I was not talking to anyone. I was taking it out on myself. That was such a problem because it continued for months on end. And when the people that I loved figured out, it didn't feel great. And there was this level of disappointment that they had in me. And I was disappointed in myself too. I mean, you walk in and you see your daughter sobbing on the floor with this cut on her arm. And you ask her, you're like, what is this? What are you doing? And she yells at you. She's like, get out. Get out of my room. Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. And at the time, I was incredibly upset at everyone, at my parents, at my friends. And I remember a time I was standing at the lockers with one of my friends, and she said hi to me, and I completely ignored her. This is my friend, mind you. I completely ignored her. I didn't answer. I didn't say anything. I just ignored her. Let it out. Allow for yourself to let it out. Even if you don't talk to someone, talk to something. Came an era in my life. I used to talk to my chickens. Putting that out there. I used to sit in the backyard and talk to my chickens about my life. Yes, I did that. And guess what? I am great now. Look where I am today. Optimism in its prime. This is who I am. I want to mention something again that I find very important. I think that all of these points are very important, but let go of what you do not have control over. If you don't have control over a certain situation, let it go. Why are you holding on to it? Why this need? Why this magnetic pull to fix something that's not your problem? It's not your fault. Nothing is your fault. You need to learn how to heal. Well, I won't say nothing is your fault because sometimes things are your fault. But I'm talking about like traumas and breakups. And I mean, unless you cheated and did something bad, obviously you're at fault. But I'm talking about like, you can think of an example probably. I don't have one on the tip of my mind. Another thing that actually really helps me was redirect your dopamine. So I used to do this thing where I sat in front of a wall for 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes. Instead of scrolling on social media, TikTok, Instagram, instead of doing that, I would just sit and stare at a wall. Now what this would do is it would make me more excited to do other things. It would allow for dopamine to come out when I was doing different things. For example, when I was reading or when I was studying or when I would work out, I would just get these not excessive, but these very good and high levels of dopamine in my mind. And it wasn't like I was unhappy about anything because, well, my dopamine wasn't being directed towards social media. It was being directed towards things that would actually better me as a person. I want to leave you guys with a very important message, and that is allow for yourself to heal. This process cannot start if you do not accept what happened to you. Sometimes the worst things happen to us despite us deserving it or not. They'll happen. But you can bear everything that you go through. And it's an Islamic belief. There's an ayah in the Quran, or a verse in the Quran, and it says, Allah does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. Everything that you go through, you can bear. You can come out and survive a better person from it. You can. You just have to believe in yourself. And without that self-love and that self-belief, you can't do anything in life. Without believing in anything, you have no purpose. You can't believe in nothing. Because honestly, passions are beliefs. You believe in this cause. You believe that you have to do this. You believe that you want to do this. So allow for yourself to heal. It's going to be a long, ugly process, but you have to allow yourself to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this video really kind of did something to you. I hope it impacted you in a positive way. And I hope that we all learn to heal. I think that the greatest flaw in society is we do not allow for others to heal. So I think that one of the most important things, again, is healing. So have a blessed day, the rest of you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!